Welcome everyone again. My name is Paweł Gładysz. I represent the CCUS Poland Association, and today I have a pleasure to introduce you to the status of CCUS technologies in Poland. Within our agenda for today, it's quite packed, so we will try to keep on schedule with all the presentations planned. I will start with a short introduction to our association, as well as give you a broad overview about the CCUS in Poland, what is happening, where we are, and where we are going forward. Then we will have other panelists that will talk about also what the ministries in Poland are doing in terms of CCUS. Then we'll have a chance to learn from the project developers, like the representatives of ORLEN, Holcim, and Gorażdże Heidelberg Group as well. And then we will start wrapping it up with something which is quite specific for Poland. Our industrial sectors like cement and lime industry have their own dedicated to Poland strategies regarding CCUS technologies. And in the end, I will also get back and wrap up with a perspective for future activities in terms of CCUS strategy and CCUS technologies as such. In the end, we are planning to have a very short Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please put them in a Q&A tables. We will be happy to answer the questions that you will put in during our presentations. And if there will be any additional questions, please do not hesitate to contact us directly. So I would like to introduce also my speakers, which will be Agnieszka Baran, the director of the CCUS program office in ORLEN, Radosław Gnutek, the director of the carbon capture and storage project from Holcim. We will also have with us in a minute Marcin, Leszczyński, the president of the board of the Polish Lime Association. And we already have with us Patryk Suchodolski, the head of the development and implementation of the CCUS technologies within the Gorażdże cement plants for the Heidelberg Materials, Poland, and Krzysztof, the program developer director at the WiseEurope Institute. So just a quick introduction to our association. Some of you might have already met us before. We were working within the years 2021, 2024 as part of the Strategic Research and Development Project, CCUS.pl. The project was realized back then by the AGH University of Krakow, where I come from, the WiseEurope Institute, and the Ministry of Economic Development and Technology. Based on the findings, as well as the enormous gathering of people who were interested in the CCUS in Poland, we established a CCUS Poland Association, which is strictly an industrial association supporting the emerging market in Poland. We started at the end of last year, and we will soon be also opening more for the international stakeholders, including our web page in the English version as well. So what do we do? Well, we all agree that the development and implementation of CCS technologies in Poland and also many other countries requires a lot of coordination efforts. And we see ourselves as those who will be responsible for those coordination at different levels with different stakeholders involved. We are working on many areas, including legislative solutions and systematic solutions, but also international and promotional activities like the one that we have a pleasure to attend today. So within the first part, I will very quickly put you into the broad perspective of the CCUS technologies in Poland. And I also included a short point on the public perception, because I know those questions usually arise here as well. So as you can see, Poland, taking into account the availability of potential storage sites, mainly silane aquifers, as well as from the CO2 emission heat map, you can see that Poland theoretically is very well perceived in terms of cover its own carbon dioxide emissions, but also taking into account a very large potential, which in total will be up to 16 gigatons of CO2 of storage potential, could also become a hub for the Central Eastern Europe to collect carbon dioxide from other countries which were maybe not that lucky in terms of storage capacity potential. Right now, our projects are mainly relying on the EU funding, primarily coming from the Innovation Fund and the CEF program, part of the PCI projects. Right now, currently, as you can see on the map here, we are emphasizing the export potential of the CO2. But as I mentioned before, taking into account the great opportunities that arise, we are actively exploring the options for CO2 storage, both onshore, but also offshore within the Polish-Baltic economic area. This will, of course, involve also the development of the CO2 transport pipeline system and the clustering of the emission points, which are not presented here, but as you might recall from the previous slide, they are mostly located in the central and southern part of Poland. We are usually asked about how the CCUS is being perceived by the public in Poland, and I can share here some very short information on that issue. We did a lot of studies checking out the public perception of CCUS in Poland. Here is the first question that we started. Have you actually ever heard about the carbon capture and storage technologies? The studies done in 2024 showed that we were something around 35%. The latest study, that results have not yet been published, I just received them 3 days ago, showed that the acknowledgements of the CCUS technologies could be around 40%. Nevertheless, what is very important is to remind ourselves that when you ask the details about the CCUS technologies and you look for the right answers in terms of what CCUS technologies could be implemented or where they actually are, we get a very low level of actually understanding CCUS technologies, which is something around 10% of the general public. In terms of public perception, we have a very detailed goals regarding how we want to build the public acceptance and engage with the general public. You will be able to learn more within our policy brief that is being developed under the umbrella of the Clean Air Task Force, and we, as the CCUS Poland Association, together with other partners, are supporting this endeavor. Hopefully, this should be published quite soon. And in terms of what is happening in Poland regarding the CCUS, we had the Geological and Mining Law updated or amended in September 2023, which allowed the full-scale commercial onshore and offshore CO2 storage activities. Before that, we had the announcement of the 2 CCS projects that will be probably discussed today. But from that point, the significant milestone was definitely the letter of intent signed in March 2025 under the new ministry, and also the establishment of the new ministerial working groups. We are hoping that this year and the next year will be the area of working very deeply into the legal framework regarding the CO2 storage sites, general CO2 transport and storage market, as well as funding models and allocations, operators and governing bodies. We would hope that the CCUS strategy could be adopted in the early 2026. We are also hoping for the first pilot CO2 storage projects around 2027, 2029, including onshore storage. And then moving forward, also thinking about the contracts for difference and the full CCUS value chain that could be delivered in between 2028 and 2032. As I said, we already know a lot about what we are dealing with. We know the legal and regulatory framework needs to be addressed. We are already having a lot of business case developments and industry-driven goals for the CCUS in Poland. But there's a lot of things that we will still need to address in the coming future, like funding sources and mechanisms that are adequate for the CCUS, CO2 transport and storage operators selection. But also we will have to compete with other decarbonization pathways, which are probably going to uplift, as well as already mentioned before, the public perception and engagement at the local level. To say a few words more on the topic of the ministerial activities, I would like to give a little bit time to my colleague Krzysztof, which will tell us more about the ministerial activities in terms of CCUS. Krzysztof, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Paweł. Thank you very much for emphasizing a little of time given for me. So maybe let's proceed to the next slide. I tried to prepare like my subjective assessment of the state of play of the CCS in Poland. I divided the whole subjects to the four major topics: the geology, market, social acceptance, and strategy. Geology was mentioned by Paweł a lot, and as you see, according to me, according to my assessment, this is the most advanced part of the value chain in Poland. The market, like as Paweł said, like there are still, we're lacking some very important parts of the system. So I found the market the less developed part of the CCUS framework. And next slide, please. Okay, the geology. As Paweł said, in 2023, there was the amendment of the Geological and Mining Act law in Poland, aimed at lifting some of the key barriers which were identified in the Polish legislation for the development of storage sites in Poland. So the first change, which plays like, maybe it doesn't sound very serious, but it's like it's changed. Like it shows that the approach to CCS has changed. Is enabling the commercial project of the CCS. Before the 2023, the CCS project were mentioned only as demonstration projects, which made them like less available, and there were like a lot of limitations for such product. The new law also has improved the permitting procedures by like reducing some of the costs of the permitting procedures, but in particular, it made it more clear how this procedure should look like, and to whom we like the entity willing to start the storage of CCS need to go to receive its like approval for the project. And one last change I want to mention is the like not fast track, but faster track for the small CCS project under 100 kilotons, which does not need to receive the opinions opinion of the EC. What next? No. If we can come back to the previous one. Sorry. As Paweł said, there are the working group within the ministry aimed at like identifying and addressing remaining challenges for the storage of the CCS in Poland. We still are waiting for update for the location regulation, which is crucial for like identifying where ministry like allows to apply for such permitting procedures. And next slide, please. In terms of market, as I said, like from my point of view, this is the less developed part of the whole framework. We do have some regulation within the Polish energy law, which were adopted as the implementation of the CCS directive adopted in EU in 2009. However, these regulations are very like framework regulation. They do not provide sufficient incentive effect for entities, as well as does not provide a sufficient level of details regarding how this market should work. Therefore, like we need to continue the works on appointment of the system operators, as well as like providing the incentives for market participants to start acting on the market. And next slide, please. The social acceptance was mentioned by Paweł. So yeah, so indeed there is like high acceptance for climate actions in Poland, but low awareness of the CCS and what the CCS is and whether it is like safe or not. So what is very important is to start a national-wide campaign, which will bring this subject closer to the society, in particular these societies where the potential storage capacities will be built, to address their concerns on that, as well as to prevent the fake news or any bad like narratives. And next slide, please. I hope this is the last one, because I have 1 minute left. And the strategy. Yeah, indeed, in the last version of the draft of National Energy and Climate Plan, the CCS has been noticed by the Ministry of Climate and Environment. However, like the CCUS Poland Association has filled its position, as well as many of representatives of the industry, that the level of mentioning as well as the detailing of the CCS roadmap is insufficient to enable and unlock this technology in Poland. Therefore, we find it like necessary to start working on the Polish strategy for CCUS in Polish strategy for CCUS within the project which was mentioned by Paweł. We have like prepared some inputs for this strategy, and up to our knowledge, Ministry has like warmly welcomed our suggestions, and the works are ongoing. The dedicated group has been or will be soon established in the Ministry. And thank you very much for your attention, and I pass the voice to.
Thank you very much, Krzysztof. Thank you for this overview of the ministerial work. And now we will already jump to the industrial representatives with Agnieszka Baran from the ORLEN group.
Yes, hello, good morning, everyone. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so thank you very much. First of all, I would like to say a few words about our strategy. This year, there was a big revision of ORLEN strategy. Of course, there was a lot of information about the many activities within the capital group, but there was also mention the activity in CCUS value chain. As you see, we indicate three activities. First is CO2 capture potential from production units from Płock, which we assume at this moment at the level of 1.1, more or less 1 million tons per year. Second is the verification of building the ECO2C terminal, export-import terminal, with the capacity of 2.8 million tons per year. And the last one, but I think the most important for many companies in Poland, is the onshore and offshore storage. This activity is assumed by us at this moment at the level of 4 million tons. When we saying 4 million tons, it means that, I guess you all may know, this information from the European Commission about the final volumes dedicated for each company, each country from the oil and gas sector is not yet fixed. This is why we show only our predictions, and this value may change in the future. Next slide, please. For those who do not know what Net Zero Industry Act is some kind of regulation which says that companies like us, so companies with the activity in the upstream sector, need to protect 50 million tons of CO2 storage capacity by the 2030 year. Of course, this volume needs to be protected within European Union, and it means that you don't have to create this capacity only in your country, but there are still some kind of possibility to discuss this, some kind of cooperation between countries and protect this capacity in other country, not in yours. As I said, we assume that 4 million tons per year needs to be created by ORLEN. Of course, it doesn't mean that this 4 million ton is dedicated only for us as the production company. No, 1.1 million ton is, of course, in the own needs for ORLEN. 1.0 is dedicated for external capacities for other companies, for example, from the cement industry, and 1.9 million ton is dedicated for other companies which would like to use this capacity for their own needs. For those who sometimes asks me whether we are interested in, let's say, carbon capture whole value chain, I would like to say no. We would not like to take care of, let's say, carbon capture units for the whole value chain. I mean, for transport, other people's CO2. But we see that our obligation and our necessity is to fulfill the Net Zero Industry Act aim. This is why we are very open for this collaboration and communication with other companies. Next slide, please. But whether it is possible to implement CCS in our country, I would say rather not yet. In the previous presentation, Krzysztof indicated that there is three on 5 points in geology and 1 on 5 points for the law, or something like that. I would say it's very optimistic because right now, unfortunately, nothing has changed when we're talking about the law. This is our, of course, with this social acceptance, this is our biggest obstacle, which prevent us against implementing CCS. We do not know where are the potential possibilities for the location of the CCS. We do not know what is the specification for the transport, for the storage of the CO2, or I should say we know, but it's not enough for the implementation of CCS. And for example, we have very big problems for the financial support and financial protection when we're talking about the storage capacity. This is why we see that before 2035, it's going to be very, very hard to implement CCS. All of the regulation, I mean the geological and mining law and 4 legal acts to this law needs to be changed before the sooner the better, I would say, to give the country the opportunity to decarbonize and to implement the Net Zero Industry Act. I think that I'm ready.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. In case of any kind of questions, I'm very open.
Thank you very much, Agnieszka, for this presentation. And we will go straight away to Radosław Gnutek, the director of the Go for Ecoplanet CCS project. Radek, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to present the project I'm leading, which is named Go for EcoPlanet. We are aiming at capturing CO2 from our cement plant in Kujawy region in Poland. I hope that Holcim as a brand is known to most of you. We are quite special, in my opinion, in a sense that the decarbonization is in the very center of our business strategy. And this project, which I'm running, is one of actually 7 projects being developed in parallel, aiming at capturing CO2. And looking at the project, we are planning to have 10 million ton CO2 captured over the period of 10 years, which by simple calculation leads to around 1 million ton per year. So this is the full emission from our cement plant. We've been granted a support from Innovation Fund of 228 million euro. And looking at the next slide, I would like to tell you that we've partnered with Air Liquide to have a unique innovative technology applied here, as this is our main innovation aspect of the Innovation Fund grant. We are not planning to use a typical for post-combustion technology of amines. So in this way, we are avoiding the need for steam, for regeneration of the amines, and we are avoiding amine waste because we are using cryogenic technology. So instead, we need to supply electricity for compression and for cooling the streams, and preferably it should be green electricity. So in this way, we are changing a little bit the paradigm of our capture approach. Looking at the next slide, I would like to tell you about our timeline. So we started this project already in 2022 with the grant application, and in the period since then, basically until now, we've been busy with design and optimization of the design and the whole project. As you will see on the next slide in a moment, that our value chain is quite complex, so it requires a lot of optimization and value engineering. And this is something what we've been spending our time on over the period of 2023 until now. And now we are ready to move to the next stage, to update our FEED package and start the EPC tender. So this is the target for the coming months, to prepare the tender documentation, start tendering, and then aim for FID, final investment decision, next year. Starting from then, we are expecting the construction to take until 2029 and start of operation, commissioning startup and start of operation in 2030. So now let's see at our value chain, which is, as I said, quite complex. So we are starting with Kujawy cement plant, where the capture will happen. Then we want to load the CO2 on trains, on rail, and move to the shore, where in the export terminal will load the CO2 to ships and transport it abroad to external storage location. This is a long, complex, and of course costly value chain. So definitely we would prefer to follow a similar path as our colleagues from ORLEN, as Agnieszka just presented, to be able to store CO2 onshore in Poland, and especially looking at our location of our plant, we are quite lucky with the subsurface structures in the vicinity of the plant. So we are hoping for this opportunity to open for us to store in Poland. But looking at the next slide, I wouldn't be, myself as being Polish if I don't mention a couple of challenges which we have. And some of them have been already mentioned by my colleagues. So there is some challenge related to the slow pace of regulation implementation regarding the location of the designated storages places. It probably results from a certain fragmentation of the institutional responsibility at our government. Also, the permitting path is has some challenges. We have limited infrastructure in Poland for transportation. That's why our rail transportation is considered. But also looking at the business case, what we see on the market, on the ETS market, the prices are not growing as it was expected a couple of years back. So we need some stability for making our project bankable, and for that, carbon contract for difference would be very, very needed. We are, as probably everyone, struggling with high capex cost and potential opex cost, but also availability of green electricity, which is heavily taxed with some grid fees. That's a challenge. And Paweł in the very beginning mentioned this need for working on the public acceptance and actually awareness regarding CCS technology. And with this, I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Radosław. So we had a pleasure to hear about what Holcim is doing as a leader within the CCUS in Poland, and now we will move to Patryk Suchodolski from the Gorażdże Cement to introduce us a little bit into the activities of the Heidelberg Materials Groups in Poland. Patryk, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Paweł. As we have very limited time, it will be a little bit of sprint. So I would like to start with the sustainability goals of our group, because we don't have, as a country, we do not have different, let's say, targets than the group ones. And as you can see, there are 4 different pillars which we are committing to. And we are trying to reach our commitments of 2030 by 3, let's say, tools. The first one is CCS, of course. This is why we are meeting here. I guess you all are aware that in Brevik, we are ramping up our production. Last week, we stored 1,000 tons of CO2 in the interim storage. As I read also in the news, Northern Lights got the permit for CO2 storage. So we are preparing for the big finale of the investment and start of the production this year with our EvoZero cement. Of course, we have a portfolio of different new projects. Hopefully, in the upcoming years, we will be able to also put a dot in Poland that we are decarbonizing our cement plant. The second pillar is the SCM, so secondary cementitious materials. We want to reduce our clinker factor. We are doing so by different means. For example, the calcium clays. Last week, there was a commissioning of the calcium clays plant in Ghana of the 400,000 tons of capacity per annum. And of course, we are working also on RCP, so recycled concrete paste. and carbonated recycled concrete paste, which I will be talking about later on. Also about alternative fuels, of course, you know that it is also key because 1/3 of our emissions comes from the fossil combustion. So you can see here our portfolio of CCUS projects. And as I said, we are lacking Poland there. We have a number of different projects in Europe. We are gaining our experience in developing projects. And we would like to use this experience here in Poland because, as you can see, the biggest, let's say, announced project is 1.8 million tons per annum of CO2. And our cement plant is the biggest in Europe. We have over 3 million tons of CO2 emissions per annum. So it has its pros and its cons. Yes, of course, it will be a huge investment and very big challenge for us. That's why we are building our capacities, we're learning from different projects, and we would like to transfer this knowledge further in Poland. Next slide, please. As you can see, also, we are not putting all of our efforts in one technology. There are a number of different technologies, and we are trying to find the best technology which suits the cement plant. And one of these projects is based in Gorażdże. We have our own pilot project, which is based on the potassium carbonate solution. And if you can put into another slide, Paweł, and I will describe the project very shortly. So this is a part of the Horizon funded project. The project is called Access. The idea is to replace amine solution, which captures CO2, with potassium carbonate mixed with some enzymes, which could be found in humans' lungs. Of course, we are not cutting any humans, so this is not the way how we obtain these enzymes. But this is the same, let's say, way of capturing. Yes, we just basically capture CO2 and then we regenerate this this solution in desorption column. One of the innovations is that they will use these amines and enzymes. Not amines, sorry, potassium carbonate solution mixed with enzymes. It has much lower heat, which is required for regeneration. And the coordinators of the project, SAIPEM and I don't remember right now the second one. They promise that the heat required for regeneration is 1/3, 2/3 of what we can see in the amine solutions. So this is a big decrease in the heat which is required for regeneration. Another innovation is the replacement of, sorry, one more thing, Paweł, here. There is a replacement of the absorption and desorption columns with so-called RPBs. It's a rotary packed bed. It's a technology which is developed here in Poland, and it's these are the discs which are rotating very fastly, and they promote contact between gas and the potassium carbonate enzyme solution, and it promotes basically the capture rate of CO2 from the flue gases. If you could put on the other slide, of course there is CCS, but we are not limited to CCS. CCU has potential as well. Here in Gorażdże, we are in the hot commissioning phase of the CCU project, which aims to capture CO2 by the use of RCP, so recycled concrete paste, which is received or recovered from the waste concrete. We carbonate it in the flue gases, and then we produce carbonated RCP, which could be used as another new type of SCM. And by that, we can produce cement with the lowered emission rate or emission factor. Of course, as I said, we are in a hot commissioning phase. There are some challenges. It's a new pilot, and hopefully you will hear more about this project in the upcoming months once we establish the optimal operation parameters. And we will, of course, open this pilot as in the connection with Access project, because these two pilots are coming at the same time into operation. Next slide, please, Paweł, because I don't remember. Yes, there are 2 more slides. However, we need to decarbonize at the scale. And the pilots wouldn't solve any issues with the CO2 emissions. And here on the right side, you can see the picture from Zero Emission Platform webinar, which was organized last year. I really like this map because it summarizes basically very good where the development of storages are happening. Gorażdże cement plant is located where the orange dot is on the map of Poland, and the closest economically viable, so maybe capacity of CO2 storage is around 600 kilometers in a straight line from our cement plant. And on the previous presentation, you saw how difficult the CCS value chain can be, and our aim is to decrease it. Of course, we would like to develop our carbon capture project. However, we need some solutions and storages which are much closer located to our cement plant, because otherwise we have no chance to compete on a commercial basis with companies which are located, or maybe cement plants, different industrial players who are located closer to these storage locations. And it's in our best interest to unlock this potential, and that's why we are also part of CCUS Poland Association. That's why we are also advocating very much together to change or amend this law. Of course, you can see here the situation in Europe. If you can, Paweł, put another slide, the last one, you can see how it looks in Poland. Yes, there are the same numbers which we're discussing on the couple of different presentations today. We have potential, but I use the words potential specifically because I don't want to say that this is something done. We have very long path ahead of us, which we need to go together, which we need to convince our government to push for changing the law, and we need to unlock this potential. It's very big, and hopefully we will be able to store CO2 within our borders. I hope it was only 5 minutes, no longer, and thank you very much.
Thank you,
everyone.
Patrick. Thank you, Patrick, for sharing with us, especially the information about the ambitions of the Gorażdże cement plant. And now, as we will still stay a little bit with the cement, I will be speaking right now on behalf of the Polish Cement Association, as they could not join us today, but I would like to share what we did as AGH University for them a couple of years back. We presented and proposed for them a decarbonization strategy relying on the CCUS technology. So as you can see, the cement industry in Poland is a very important player also on the European market. There are 12 cement plants located in 9 voivodeships. There's a large and very, there's already have been a lot of things have been done in order to reduce the carbon dioxide emission. It was reduced by around 30%, thanks to the huge investments that took place already in the past years. But in order to go further, the cement industry in Poland will definitely need CCUS technologies. As you all know, there's a part of CO2 emissions associated with the cement production that are associated with the process itself. So we are talking about the hard to abate. In total, Polish cement production corresponds to around 4% of the total CO2 emissions, which might seem like not a lot, but you have to remember that a lot of those total emissions comes from the coal-fired power plants that should soon be also taken offline. In the end, we definitely, as a cement industry in Poland, need CCUS technologies, and we are also saying that there is a huge potential to go with around 2.5 million tons of CO2 by 2030. What was done for the Polish Cement Association by the AGH Center for Energy, together with other partners from Poland, was we completed a feasibility study for an integrated CCUS system for the cement industry in the whole Poland, including also the pathway of how the technologies could be implemented and what kind of technologies are suitable to be introduced within the CCS pathway. We are also aware, for example, as already Patryk mentioned, for Gorażdże, cement industry is also looking towards the CCU option as well. Nevertheless, the analysis was done on the reference CO2 capture, analyzed two technologies, amine-based and calcium looping. There was a benchmark process analysis and a specific analysis of capital expenditure and operational expenditure, not only for the capture system, but also for the proposed networks for CO2 transport and CO2 storage, with the CO2 storage, including onshore options. And so based on that, based on the detailed available assessment of the available and potential, as Patryk also mentioned, storage sites in Poland, specific ones were proposed, taking into account the distribution of the cement plants in Poland. And based on that, networks of how the CO2 could be transported, together with the full cost assessment, have been done. This was, I think, one of the first actual sectoral CCUS strategies in Poland, especially for cement plant. And we were glad to contribute this, and we're also glad that this kind of strategy was emerged a couple of years back in Poland. And this also serves as a very strong point with the discussions with the Polish government, showing also the actual benefits coming from that. But of course, within this strategy, there's also information about important issues that need to be addressed. Some of them have already been mentioned. I would also like to point out the support for the energy intensive industry, which needs to be also included, as the energy consumption after CCS implementation in the cement plant will increase significantly. And all the things that have been already mentioned, like the amendment of the national energy law, in general, the legal framework for the CCUS, those are the things that need to be established and proposed. And those are the things which the whole Polish cement industry is moving forward, trying to show, educate, and also promote the implementation specifically in Poland. And right now, based on the cement industry strategy, we will be able to hear a little bit more about the lime industry specific CCUS technologies. I hope that Marcin is with us right now.
Yes, I'm here.
Marcin, so the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity of being with you. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to be from the beginning of the meeting. So as the representative of Polish Lime Association, let me just say a few words what lime means actually, where are we located, and how much we do represent as a CO2 emission. So Poland is one of the leaders in the lime production. We produce more or less 10% of the European production, which may be converted to something like 1.6 million ton of lime. And Poland has also, Polish lime industry has one of the most modern technology. Most of the technology relies on the parallel flow regenerative kilns with the lowest CO2 emissions, with the lowest energy consumption, heat consumption, which may turn that 1.6 million ton is the equivalent of 1.6 million ton of CO2 emitted every year, more or less. Lime has a very broad application. We serve a lot of products to environmental protection, water treatment, waste gas, potable water, purification, sludge treatment. Of course, it's quite significant part of the market is the agriculture, food growing, pH correction of soil, and such industrial applications like steel, glass, and also wall materials, sun bricks, and autoclaved aerated concrete, and ending by the pavement of the roads like the asphalt fillers and also soil stabilization. On the next slide, though, you will just see a few elements linked where the emission comes from. So CSCO3 lime industry uses almost one of the purest limestone resources, above 95-96% of CSCO3. When we add the energy, we decompose, we calcine the calcium carbonate to lime, so CaO, and we emit CO2. Almost 70% is a process emission. It's something what comes from decomposition of calcium carbonate, the chemical reaction, and only 30% comes from fuel. And we can just say, what can we do as a lime industry, how to avoid the emissions, how to limit the CO2 footprint. So, of course, the energy efficiency, turning to renewable energy, alternative fuels, biomass projects, and almost every single lime plant in Poland has its CO2 roadmap based on the switch from fossil fuels to biomass. Fuel efficiency, as I said, the parallel flow regenerative kilns are the most modern and the most efficient lime calcination technologies developed, and optimized supply chain helps as well to limit drastically the CO2 emission footprint for lime products. And unavoidable, that's something that the only way to limit this green part of pie is the CC, the carbon capture, transport, storage, and usage with the limited possibility, I presume, here in Poland. On the next slide, we will see where are we located. So the red dots, these are the cement plants, the black dots are the lime plants. Long time ago, lime plants were built as a part of the cement plant. Actually, there were the hybrid plants sharing a similar deposit, the same deposits, where the high calcium carbonate was used for lime and low calcium carbonate was used as a raw material for cement manufacturing. And actually, we want to use this advantage that we are next to the other. Nowadays, I'm sitting in a place and seeing almost the chimneys of the biggest cement plant in Gorażdże, Heidelberg Materials. In Kielce region, we also have a few cement plants in Holcim, a cement plant of Dickerhof next to the lime plants. And Kujawy, the northern plants, we see the Holcim plant and Nordkalk lime plant as well. So we would like to use this location as the advantage to be, let's say, in some extent, grouped in hubs and connected to the transport network at the same place. On the next slide, we see just a few elements and barriers. It has been mentioned already, so maybe it's I will not mention anything new, but of course everything starts with the analysis where we will finally store CO2, and the rest will follow. I presume that for the rest it has been said so many things. We have, of course, great strategy as a Polish lime industry. We have had a very great cooperation with the Institute of the University of Mining and Metallurgy. So we exactly know what we have to do. The question is how to transport the CO2 out of the plants. What will be the support of the government? How it will work finally as far as the CO2 cost and transportation is concerned. What will be the acceptance, of course, of all the involved in that process? So these are still the open questions that we don't know, but the most critical thing is that the sooner we know where to transport the CO2, the better for all industry. And we are like a 10 times smaller industry versus cement. We really count on the close cooperation with cement industry and others, creating the hubs. And we really count that finally there will be a few good examples in Europe that will break these barriers, and finally we will start the real cases, not just the trials, pilots, and kind of low-scale initiatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marcin, for your presentation and for sharing the insights from the lime cement industry CCUS strategy. And now I would like to wrap it up very quickly, just to say a few words about the strategy, the general strategy for the whole emerging CCUS market in Poland. As you can see, there is an overview of the National Carbon Management Strategy and roadmaps for CCS. And as you can see, Poland is marked as in preparation. Krzysztof already mentioned that there is a ministerial group working on the topic, and we actually meet for the first time today in 2 hours. So I'm looking forward for this meeting, and I'm very open and hopeful regarding what the ministry will offer in terms of working on the actual CCUS strategy in Poland. We definitely see that there are some pillars in terms of how the support towards the CCUS deployment should look like. And when we look at what is global CCS is proposing within those 3 main areas, I can say that right now with the discussions within the industry, we are working on the regulations. We are thinking about the contracts, carbon difference. We are working on the regulatory framework for transport and storage, and also the formal expression of the ambitions, so the strategy itself. So those are the areas that are being currently addressed in Poland in terms of CCUS deployment. How it actually look like? Well, there is still an open question. We as CCUS.pl project has made several scenarios, including limited, rapid, or delayed deployment of the CCUS technologies. We also have the results of our macroeconomic modeling on that, which were then directly included within a strategic document, which was the final outcome of our project. But in the end, it is still an open question. We still have to include a lot of other technologies, decarbonization technologies that will be or should be even also included and validated over the overall macroeconomic factors within Poland. There's definitely a need for all hands on deck. I'd like to show this slide. As you can see, that theoretically we would like to reach the CO2 capture capacities by 2050 that would be required. We would need between 29 and 46 installations in Poland, which would mean that we will have to every year in Poland, starting from now and ending in 2050, give commission and put to operation 1 or 2 CO2 capture installations with a capacity of something around 1.2 million tons of CO2 per year. This is an enormous effort in Poland, but without this, it's going to be hard to meet all the criteria in terms of reaching the net zero goals by 2050. In terms of summary, well, we are also looking what is happening outside. We would like to see a global efforts being convinced into the binding targets as well. We are aware of the need for the verification of entire product chain. For those of you who says that the CCS is against renewables, we are saying no. We actually need a significant volumes of renewable energy in order to introduce a sustainable CCUS value chain. And definitely the development of the CO2 transport and storage infrastructure is something that we are needing in Poland. And on the other side of the graph is the legislation that we already talked a lot so much today. So now I will be closing in slowly. I think we still might have a minute or 2 for some questions before we will have to wrap it up. Let me just check for the Q&As. I can see that there's a lot of questions. We'll definitely not be able to go through all of them. But let's say that we will start with the first one that I have on the list. And if any other would like to follow up on us, please contact us directly after this seminar. So there is a question from Sebastian Fischer. Could you please say some more words about current development regarding identification and exploration of storage sites onshore and offshore in Poland? For example, have areas been identified that might be suitable for the CO2 storage? I can answer actually this by myself directly. There have been a lot of work done around 2012 in terms of identification. Those maps have actually been shown in terms of where those places are. And we are hoping to get within the next month the actual official legal act in Poland that will put those places on the map and amend the current legislation that only allows to store in one site in the Baltic Sea, which will open a large part of Poland as a suitable for CO2 storage. Of course, this identification and those values that I also brought in at one point of around 16 gigatons of CO2 storage capacity, those needs to be confirmed through pilot projects, through more detailed studies. But we are hoping that in the end, we will be able to provide a decent amount of storage sites, especially in the central part of Poland. But also we are very looking forward to the opportunities that the Baltic Sea in terms of offshore storage could bring to us. There is, of course, mentioned already by Patryk, Helsinki Convention, but all of those things are in place. The only thing right now, in order to share more with you about the storage sites, I'll also give the project developers the opportunity to work with those locations, is the amendment for the specific act on the CO2 storage sites available in Poland, which should theoretically come already next month. And as I can see, we reach our time. I would like to thank our panelists and give back the voice to our organizers. At the same time, thanking them for giving us this wonderful opportunity to talk about the CCUS status in Poland. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'd just like to extend my thanks to all of our speakers for sharing that fantastic overview today about CCUS in Poland. We very much appreciate it. We have one more webinar left in our European CCUS webinar series, and that's looking at Spain on Tuesday, the 10th of June. So the details are there and more information can be found on the website. So thank you again and have a good day, everybody.